Hey ladies, I hope you had a wonderful break. I apologize for not being there today, but our babysitter actually had a baby herself. So she's busy recovering from giving birth to her second son, which is real exciting. They're really happy. But we don't have somebody to watch our daughter, so I had to stay home today to take care of Ellie. And she turned 6 months over break, so we went and had a nice photo shoot done. And our photographer posted a picture for us, just as a little preview. So I thought I'd share that with you. So here's our lovely daughter at 6 months. She's got her nice little Audrey Hepburn diaper on with a little pink bow. We love this one, and we're really excited to see the rest of them. So we can't wait. Hopefully we get them soon. And so I'm going to take care of this little girl, and I made a video for you guys so you guys can continue to learn and take notes. So we're going to work on section 5.3 today, and then when you're done, you're going to go back to the classroom and work on some classwork, which you'll have to turn in today, and your sub will collect that from you. And once you finish your classwork, you can then begin your homework, and your sub will tell you what that is as well. So, let's get started. Alright, so this is section 5.3, and all we're really doing is adding, subtracting, and multiplying polynomials. So, we can all add and subtract numbers and multiply numbers, so we're in really good shape. We just have to make sure we're working with like terms. We always want to be working with terms that have the same degree or the same exponents on the variable. So, we're going to start with adding polynomials, and we're going to look at two different methods. We're going to look at the vertical method, and then we're going to look at the horizontal method. All right, so the vertical method here comes first. So we have the polynomial x squared minus 2x plus 8, and we're going to add that to 7x squared plus 2x minus 5. So what I need to do is I'm going to rewrite this so these two polynomials are stacked. So I have x squared minus 2x plus 8 plus 7x squared plus 2x minus 5. And what you really want to be conscious of is you want to make sure that each term is above or below a term that has the same degree. So what we want to look at are the exponents. All right, since these both have an exponent of 2, we know we're in the right spot. These both have an exponent of 1, so that's good. And these both don't have variables, so the degree here is 0 because the exponent on both variables is 0. And so we're lined up, we're ready to go. So all I need to do now is add the coefficients and the constants in this case. So I know there's a 1 in front of this x squared, so 1 plus 7 is 8. So I have 8x squared. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0, so I have 0x. And 8 plus negative 5 gives me 3. And so when you have a 0 coefficient, that term can drop, and I'm going to be left with 8x squared plus 3. And that's it. That's the vertical method. We're going to look at the same exact problem here, just with the horizontal method. So since it's the same exact problem, we should end up getting the same answer, 8x squared plus 3, only we're going to look at it horizontally. So instead of stacking the two polynomials and lining up the like terms, we're going to regroup the polynomials and group like terms together. So I'm going to start my first grouping with the degree of 2. So I have x squared, and there's a degree of 2 here, so that's plus 7x squared. Then I'm going to go down to my degree of 1, which is negative 2x. Add that to 2x. Then I'm going to go to my constants, which have a degree of 0. That's 8 plus negative 5. So I've essentially just regrouped the terms that have the same degrees. There's a 1 in front of this x squared, so 1 plus 7 is 8. And I have 8x squared. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0, so I have 0x. 8 plus negative 5 is 3. And as before, that middle term cancels because it has a coefficient of 0. And I get left with 8x squared plus 3. There's our answer. The most common mistake students make here, other than arithmetic errors, is they add the exponents. Remember, we don't add exponents when we add terms together. The only time we're adding exponents is dealing with multiplication, which you'll see in part 3 of this section. What we just did was addition. Don't add the exponents when you're adding, nor when you're subtracting, which is the second scenario we're going to look at. So we're going to subtract polynomials. Again, we're going to look at the vertical method and the horizontal method. So I have y squared minus 2y plus 7 minus 6y minus 2 plus 2y squared. Whenever I'm dealing with subtraction, what I like to do is I basically turn that subtraction problem into an addition problem. So I'm going to see this subtraction sign right here. I'm going to make it an addition sign, and then each sign afterwards, alright, so in this next parentheses here, I'm going to switch the sign of each term. So there's 1, 2, 3 terms. This positive term becomes negative, this negative term becomes positive, and this positive term becomes negative. So now I'm going to work on rewriting it, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to stack, because it's a vertical method, I'm going to stack them. So I have y squared minus 2y plus 7. And notice the degrees here decrease from left to right. That's standard form. So I have a degree of 2, degree of 1, degree of 0. These degrees don't do that, so I'm going to need to reorder them so they decrease from left to right, and then subsequently that will then allow or make each degree above and below each other, so we'll be set ready to add. So the first degree that is a degree of 2 is this negative 2y squared. So I'm going to put that one first. Then this minus 6y is a degree of 1, and a positive 2 is a degree of 0. So I'm going to add those together, because remember I turned subtraction to addition. Now all my degrees are lined up, like terms are right above each other. I'm ready to go. Got a coefficient here of 1. 1 plus negative 2 is negative 1. So I have negative y squared. Negative 2y plus negative 6y is negative 8y. And 7 plus 2 is 9. So my final answer here is negative y squared minus 8y plus 9. Now let's go look at the horizontal method. We're going to look at a different problem, alright, but we're going to subtract horizontally. So we've got 6x cubed plus 5x squared minus 7x minus the quantity 5x cubed minus x squared plus 10x plus 4. So again, the first step I'm going to do is change subtraction to addition. So this subtraction sign is going to become a plus. This positive term will become negative. Negative term positive, positive negative, positive negative. Horizontally, what I need to do is group like terms. So I'm going to work with degrees of 3 first. So 6x cubed plus a negative 5x cubed. Going to add that, degrees of 2, so that's 5x squared plus x squared. Close parentheses. Add that to degrees of 1, so that's negative 7x plus negative 10x. And then a degree of 0. This does not have a degree of 0, but this guy does. So that's a negative 4. So 6x cubed plus negative 5x cubed. 6 plus negative 5 is 1. So I'm left with 1x cubed. Add that to 5x squared plus 1x squared is 6x squared. Negative 7x plus negative 10x is negative 17x. And then we have our negative 4. So our solution here is x cubed plus 6x squared minus 17x minus 4. And that's subtraction. Next, we're going to get into multiplication. So we're going to multiply both vertically and horizontally. Vertical method, you guys have done this before, just dealing with straight up numbers when we were multiplying without calculators. So you remember doing something like this back in grade school, 112 times 14. Where I would take this 4, multiply it by 2 and get 8. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 1 is 4. Then you would either leave a space. Some of you probably learned to put in a 0 or maybe an x here. I'll put in a 0, so you skip a spot, come to this 1. 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 1 is 1. And then you add the column. So 8 plus 0 is 8, 4 plus 2 is 6, 4 plus 1 is 5, and then there's no number here, plus 1 is 1. So your answer there would be 1,568. That's a vertical method. All right, doing the same thing with polynomials. All right, so I'm going to stack them. I have negative x squared minus 2x plus 7, and I'm going to multiply that by x plus 2. So I have negative x squared minus 2x plus 7, and I'm going to multiply that by x plus 2. So same thing, just as you started with the 4 and multiplied by each term, I'm going to start with the 2 and multiply by each term. So 2 times 7 is 14. The big difference here is you're not carrying any numbers, you just write down the exact number. So 14, 2 times negative 2x is negative 4x. Because 14 is positive, I'm going to put a plus in there. 2 times negative x squared is negative 2x squared. Then fill this spot with a 0. Then move over to the x. X times 7 is 7x. X times negative 2x is going to be negative 2x squared. X times negative x squared is going to be negative x cubed. So I've had my filler there of 0. I've got a 0 spot in here, so I could write in a 0x cubed. Both these numbers that I'm going to highlight in yellow are not necessary. You don't have to write those down. If you're more comfortable leaving a space, feel free to do so. All right, now all we do is add the columns, just like we did here. So 14 plus 0 is 14. Negative 4x plus 7x, all right, is going to give me 3x. Negative 2 plus negative 2, or negative 2x squared plus negative 2x squared is negative 4x squared. And then 0 plus negative x cubed is negative x cubed. So a couple things to point out. You can see all my terms, the degrees, were all lined up, which allowed me to add nicely. You have to make sure you're adding the columns that have the same degrees. If your degrees aren't the same as the one above or below it, there's something wrong in your alignment. You need to go back and check. And secondly, you saw that if it was a positive number, it would turn into a plus. If it came out with a negative number, that turned into a minus. And then there's our answer. Now we're going to multiply using the horizontal method. So we have, again, the same exact problem, so we should get the same exact answer. All right, the horizontal method is you need to choose, all right, here we've got a trinomial and a binomial. You need to choose which one of them you want to break up. I typically like to choose the smaller of the two polynomials, so in that case would be the binomial, and I'm going to break up this binomial into two separate terms. You'll see though sometimes you're going to multiply a trinomial by a trinomial, so there's no smaller one, so you would then just break up the trinomial into 3 terms. All right, and so essentially what this is going to be is one big distribution problem. So as I said, I'm breaking up the binomial into 2 terms. So the first term would be x, and I'm going to take that x and multiply it by this whole trinomial. All right, so this is my x, and I'm multiplying it by negative x squared minus 2x plus 7, which is the trinomial in blue. Then I'm going to come and take my positive 2, which came from right here, and again I'm going to multiply it by this whole trinomial here, negative x squared minus 2x plus 7. So what I essentially am doing here is distributing this x in. So x times negative x squared is negative x cubed. X times negative 2x is negative 2x squared. And x times 7 is 7x. Then I come to the 2 and distribute it in as well. So 2 times negative x squared is negative 2x squared. 2 times negative 2x is negative 4x. And 2 times 7 is 14. So now I'm going to go ahead and combine my like terms. So I'm going to go ahead and look for terms with degrees of 3. Here's a degree of 3, and that's the only one, so I'm going to write that down, negative x cubed. And when I tend to use them, I tend to cross them out. So I'll cross them out with a highlighted pen so you can still kind of read them. Then I'm going to go look for degrees of 2. So here's a degree of 2, there's a degree of 2. So I have negative 2x squared and then a negative 2x squared. So combine those and I get negative 4x squared. So both of those were used. Then I look for degrees of 1, which are here. So I have 7x minus 4x. That gives me 3x. Both of those were used. And then I go for degrees of 0, which is just this positive 14. So my final answer is negative x cubed minus 4x squared plus 3x plus 14. Same exact answer we had above. So that's multiplying polynomials. The last section that we're going to look at is multiplying 3 binomials together. You already know how to multiply 2 binomials together. You FOIL. So when you have 3 binomials, it's kind of like you start out by using FOIL. You can either choose to FOIL the first 2 binomials, the second 2 binomials, or the outside 2 binomials. It really doesn't matter. Commutative property of multiplication says I can mix and match all of these quantities here. All 3 of them. I typically just go ahead and FOIL the first 2. So I'll go ahead and do that. X times x gives me x squared. Outside, x times negative 1 is negative x. Inside, 3 times x is 3x. Last, 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. That x plus 2 comes for a ride. And then I go ahead and combine those middle 2 terms there. And I get x squared plus 2x minus 3. And here I have x plus 2. So now I have a trinomial and a binomial multiplied together. And I'm going to take a moment and scroll back up. And that's exactly what we had here, a trinomial and a binomial. So we can now choose to either multiply using our vertical method that we learned or the horizontal method. I'm going to start, and I'm going to use the horizontal method this time. So I'm going to break up this guy into 2 terms, the x and the 2. So I have x times x squared plus 2x minus 3, positive 2, and I'm going to have that by x squared plus 2x minus 3. Distribute in each part, so x times x squared is x cubed, x times 2x is 2x squared, x times negative 3 is negative 3x. 2 times 2x squared is 2x squared, 2 times 2x is 4x, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Now we go ahead and look for like terms, so that's the only term with degree of 3. And so we use that one. Now we have degrees of 2, so 2x squared plus 2x squared is 4x squared. So those guys were used. Now we go to degree of 1. So we have negative 3x plus 4x, so that's just positive x. So these 2 were used. And then lastly, our degree of negative 6. And this guy was used. So our final answer will be x cubed plus 4x squared plus x minus 6. So when you have 3 binomials together, pick one set of them, so multiply 2 of them together using the FOIL method. And then once you simplify, you're going to have 1 trinomial and 1 binomial, and then you use the same method we did in Roman numeral number 3. So here I chose the horizontal method. The last problem here is x plus 2 cubed. Remember, this is under the section of 3 binomials. Alright, so we want to take this base of x plus 2 and write it that many times. So this is going to be equal to x plus 2 times x plus 2 times x plus 2. So we have to multiply x plus 2 by itself 3 times. So 3 binomials. So I'm going to take the first 2 and FOIL them. And I'm going to end up getting, after I simplify, x squared plus 4x plus 4. That's going to be times x plus 2. So this is the product after you FOIL. Now I'm going to use the vertical method this time. So I've got x squared plus 4x plus 4. I'm going to multiply that by x plus 2. So 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 4x is 8x. And 2 times x squared is 2x squared. Leave a little zero filler there. X times 4 is 4x. X times 4x is 4x squared. And x times x squared is x cubed. Now we add our columns. So 8 plus 0 is 8. 8 plus 4, or 8x plus 4x is 12x. 2x squared plus 4x squared is 6x squared. And then drop down the x cubed. So our final answer is x cubed plus 6x squared plus 12x plus 8. And that is the final problem. So that was adding, subtracting, multiplying, and polynomials. I'm glad you enjoyed these notes. I'm sure you did thoroughly. And your sub will take you back to the room shortly. So remember, you have to turn in your classwork. So be thorough and be efficient in doing them. All right, don't dilly-dally. All right, because if you waste too much time, you might not get them done. All right, but there should be plenty of time to get them done. All right, so if you have any questions, shoot me a message on Schoology. I'll get back to you. Otherwise, I will see you on Thursday. All right, goodbye.